the lug nuts and take the wheel off. Using an 18mm socket, go ahead and remove this bolt. Just swing this up out of the way. Using a 24mm socket, go ahead and remove the strut spring lower fork bolt. Using a 21mm socket, remove the forward mounted control arm bolt. Using a 22mm socket, we're going to go ahead and loosen this lower ball joint nut. Using a pry bar, you can go behind the knuckle and up onto the control arm, gently pry up, and you can separate the knuckle from the ball joint and leave that nut on there for now. Using an 18mm socket, we're going to go ahead and loosen these two bolts. There are nuts or capture nuts on each side. They have these tabs to hold that nut from spinning. Let's go ahead and loosen those. All right, so the bolt is loose. Go ahead and remove the capture nut and set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and try and get this bolt out. Might have to use a pry bar to try and wiggle this bolt out. You now go ahead and remove the ball joint nut. Set that aside, and carefully I want to go ahead and maneuver this control arm out of position, and at the same time out of the knuckle. And grab the control arm, swing it out of the chassis, and then out of the knuckle. Before reinstallation of all the hardware, I want to go ahead and wire brush these. Just make it that much easier for the reinstallation. Get the back lined up. Let's see if we can get that ball joint lined up here. Strut to line up. Get that lower ball joint nut started. Using a pry bar, we're going to go ahead on the inside of the cradle, swing that control arm out and in like so. We're going to go ahead and use a jack underneath the control arm and raise this up into place so we can go ahead and put our forward mounted bolt through. You can go ahead and use your pry bar from underneath, and we're just going to go ahead and manipulate that control arm into position. Good, that feed that bolt through. Once you get that bolt through, we're going to go ahead and get this threaded onto the capture nut. So we're going to go ahead and release the jack from underneath and remove the jack altogether. With a pry bar up against this mount right here, I'm going to go ahead and adjust that control arm, get it into position, and work one of these bolts up into place. Once you get that bolt up, go ahead and set the capture nut on there. We're going to get and remove the pry bar, and we're going to go ahead and tighten this bolt up to snug this capture nut in. Now go ahead and as we snug this down, it'll start to pull the mount down, and then we can go ahead and get the rearward bolt started. Once you get the bolt started, you're going to want to go ahead and snug them up. Now we can go ahead and snug down that front bolt. This ball joint nut, and once it's tight, you can go ahead and torque it to 70 foot-pounds. Okay, now you want to use your jack again, support the knuckle and the control arm, and you're going to just work the jack so that you can get that upper bolt mounted in. Now with the bolt through, go ahead and install the nut, and we'll snug that down. And go ahead and torque down the lower bolt to 125 foot-pounds. You know, go ahead and lower the jack. I'm going to go ahead and get that lower bolt lined up and get that threaded into the control arm. We're going to thread that in as far as we can. We're going to go ahead and use a small pry bar, and we're going to put it between the frame and the sway bar, and we're going to get some flexibility in there so we can go ahead and get this bolt lined up. Once that's installed, go ahead and get the nut installed. Then you want to go ahead and get both of these bolts, the upper and lower bolt, snug down. We're going to go ahead and torque the lower link bolt to 85 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and torque the upper link bolt to 100. Now once this is all torqued, you're going to want to go ahead and bring the vehicle down to get an alignment done immediately. Go ahead and get that wheel installed. Get some of those lug nuts started by hand. Go ahead and snug these down. Torque range is 85 foot-pounds to 115. We're going to actually torque these to 100 foot-pounds. Do this in a crisscross pattern.